Hey everyone, you're watching a multiplayer replay of Third Age Total War, which is a Lord of the Rings inspired mod for the game Medieval 2 Total War. And I am playing with the faction Isengard, who is one of the evil factions, and my opponent Gimli is playing with Rohan, or Rohan, if you care. So let's take a quick look at my units. That's my general, and he's with my war unit, and you may remember those guys from the second Lord of the Rings film. They're kind of the, I don't know, prehistoric hyena type ancestors. I really have no idea, but they are basically beasts with riders on them, and horses are not a fan of those. And here you can see some of my crossbowmen, who you may also remember from the second film, particularly the Siege. These are my Uruk-hai crossbows. And they are opening up on Rohan's archers. And speaking of Rohan, here are some of their cavalry sort of approaching one of my right wing, and my archers are retreating a bit there, but I have heavy heavy infantry and berserkers supporting my archers on both flanks, both left and right flanks. And you see on the left flank, this cavalry unit of Rohan actually did charge into my archers here, but they almost immediately also run into my heavy infantry, and my skirmishers are throwing javelins at them, so they almost immediately rout, so their morale has been broken. And they did some damage among my archers, but you can also see I exacted about roughly the same price on them. And they are, I don't know if they're routing off the battlefield yet. No, actually, you'll see Gimli will use his general and rally them with this horn. You could hear that right now, and so they will still be back in this fight. So my crossbows basically started the battle by engaging Rohan's archers, and my crossbows are getting the better of this because they're better armored and their crossbow bolts have more power, so they're punching through that whatever light armor those archers are wearing. And Gimli sees that he's not going to win the archer battle, so he starts bringing up his main infantry body, which are consisting of Rittermark axemen, these guys with the two-hander axes, and also Airling swordsmen. And you may remember those guys from probably the second movie, Battle of Helm's Deep, where they were defending the walls against my faction, against Uruks and all of Isengard's power. So now that we've gotten to closer range, my skirmishers are throwing their javelins and starting to exact a heavier toll on these Rohan infantry, which is going to help my infantry a lot when they finally close in for melee. But on my left flank, you can see this huge sort of Rohan cavalry blob, sort of forming up for a strike. And so I brought both of my warg units over to support my Uruk-hai heavy infantry and my berserkers, those guys with the kind of the paint all over them and the strange double-bladed or sort of double-hooked swords. Anyway, Rohan's infantry has started the attack on my line, but I'm gonna show you Rohan's cavalry strike on my left flank. And so
if we continue like this,
they've smashed into my infantry, but my infantry are gonna hold out pretty well because they're heavy, and cavalry, you usually do not want to stick them in for prolonged engagements with infantry. And I've also sent in my wargs to counter, and my wargs have a bonus fighting cavalry because, like I said before, horses are not a fan of sort of these carnivorous prehistoric type animals. Okay, so here you can see some of Rohan's infantry engaging one of my heavy Uruk infantry. And for the main line, my Uruk-hai pikes are doing pretty well holding off this frontal assault, using their weapons to sort of keep the swordsmen away from them. And on my right flank, I have actually managed to rout one of the Airling, or sorry, one of the Rohan infantry, And now my victorious Urukai heavy infantry and berserkers are going to crash into this reserve unit of Rittermark's axemen and see if they can't rout them and start rolling up Rohan's infantry line. And okay, so here actually Gimli has sent his general sort of on an end around, and he's gone through that gap, and he's gonna hit some of my Snaga skirmishers, these goblins who are throwing javelins. And in back, some of my archers are retreating away from the cavalry so they can maybe start shooting at them again. Okay, and there you can see my pikes have basically broken Rohan's infantry assault. They're already fleeing the battlefield. They won't flee entirely, they're gonna rally, but... and on my left side, you can see my wargs and my infantry still fighting this running battle with this Rohan heavy concentration of cavalry. And here some of my wargs are picking off stragglers there. I think Gimli was basically trying to do what you should do with cavalry, which is cycle them in and out for charges, and so you get the full impact of their charge each time. Unfortunately, I think in Third Age, cavalry are a bit underpowered, which means their sort of charge impact does not have as much effect as it probably should. And you can see some of them are already routing. And here, Rohan's infantry are routing again because I brought up my pikes to sort of support my heavy infantry, and a few of them have managed to rally here and form a secondary line with the archers. But I am bringing up most of my pikes and heavy infantry from my center and right to strike them, while my infantry and wargs from the sort of running battle with the cavalry are now coming up behind them. Here you can see one of my Uruks has already crashed into the secondary line, and once infantry have already routed, they're not going to stand up very long. As you can see here, their morale is kind of already taken a hit, so they're going to start running again, and the rest of the line of Rohan's infantry is going to also withdraw because they see this huge power of Isengard bearing down on them, and at this point my army pretty much outnumbers the remaining Rohan troops. Except in the back, I guess this cavalry unit's been taking out my skirmishers, but I finally crashed into them with some of my wargs, and I think my infantry are not far behind them. And okay, that's actually Gimli's general. So he's gonna get out of there, not get caught up by my troops, but I do manage to take down some of them. Okay, now that retreat by the remaining Rohan infantry is pretty much turned into a rout, so most of them are actually just fleeing the field now. They're no longer under the control of Gimli. And so yeah, it's not looking too good for Rohan. But like I said, cavalry in this game is kind of underpowered, which does not help Rohan because Rohan's main advantage is its cavalry. Okay, there you can see there one of my Uruks is sent flying by that cavalry charge, which is how it really should be, and cavalry probably should be doing a lot more damage on those charges. So basically Gimli's trying to rout that one Uruk unit with his general's cavalry unit on that side and some of his axemen coming from the other side. But I've got my infantry and few remaining wargs coming up behind them to sort of sandwich that general unit. And yeah, so they caught up with the general's unit and they're pretty much going to slaughter them. And at this point, Gimli just admitted defeat because it was pretty much over. Most of his troops are already fleeing the battlefield. Okay, and you can see there it was not too hard of a victory for Isengard for my faction. And it was pretty fun just to see, you know, that do that kind of matchup from the movies. But like I said, I think the game could use a bit of tweaking to help the cavalry units, because if you're playing with Rohan, you're kind of playing at a disadvantage. So anyway, thanks for watching that second Third Age commentary, and hopefully I'll get a few more up again shortly.